them. No, you don't work for us, you're a slave. Free man, but you can't work for us. But you adapted. Oh, it's not good enough. It's caused the Great Depression. So we can starve these niggas to death. You adapted. Oh, let's segregate them so they can't buy nothing from us no more. You adapted. Let's put crack cocaine in the community and make these niggas into drug addicts. But you adapted. Let's create hip hop to put these niggas in a spell. Oh, that's a problem. You didn't adapt. Because now they figured that the formula was all in the tones. No matter what they did to you physically, you adapted. But what happened is now they got you off of your original natural vibration on theirs. You can't adapt because you're outside of your tone. But we adapted so many times, but when they finally figured it out, they got you. This is why it's so important to learn our language. But they was watching us. And this is what they was calling experiments to figure out who was the God and who wasn't God. They was looking for that Messiah that was going to come out of black people. That's going to lead us to the hereafter. Because we are in the hereafter. Everything that Revelation is talking about it's already passed. We're in the hereafter already. You just don't realize it because they got Hollywood movies and you're waiting for the buildings to crumble, planes fall out the sky, stuff with earthquakes, tornadoes, tsunamis that happen at the same time. No, that's in a movie. You hear me? If you look at the world in 1 year and do a recap, what happened this year, and put it in half an hour, that's the movie. It just happened at different times, at different months, and different days. You feel me? And with that, I'd like to pass the mic over to my brother, Amon Rayatun.
Hatep. Any questions? No questions? Yes.
Touching bases on something that was stated earlier. How do we get our land back? Like not speaking about Tom Ray, but to know the reality that this was once a part of that great land before it separated from the other side. And a lot of us were already here, you understand, prior to any state system, federal system, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And now that we, are in the sunset, I mean, I can tell a lot about just this winter that we so-called having. You understand that it's getting warmer and things is, changing. But how do we go about getting that back? How do we, you know what I mean? For real.
All right, knowing that we were the original beings or gods, for lack of better words, on this plane of existence, and this was our land, and naturally, we were rulers or caretakers of the planet, for mistakes, for lack of better words, of what took place with our ancestors and the Natharu coming into this plane of existence, destroying many different things, destroying different cultures that was already established, and we took care of that. Basically, we took responsibility. We had the ability to respond. And what they did, they mixed in with different seeds. This is for those who do not know. For them mixing in with different seeds on the planet, and what they did, it was actually, they were actually merged into genetics here. Some of the beings disagree, or some of the gods disagree, which you had the war of the gods. And this was your whole situation with Nimrod in the Bible, as we know as Sargon. It says he was a mighty hunter for the Lord. Well, that was actually dealing with the fact that he was hunting for a particular god to hunt down those who was actually copulating with the mortals. You know what I'm saying? And they did not want that mixture to take place. But being that it did, and different beings like Pt.2 or Enki, as we know, fought for our sustenance or our sustaining our life on this plane of existence, not destroying us. We see him as a father of, us in our existence to this day. The different land masses that covered from our kingdom, from ancient Egypt all the way to here to California, and from all the way down to South America, where you still see the pyramids and the graphs or the line graphs or the artistic murals or pictures of different insects and animals on the ground, which was landing sites for our different beings to come. All of this is indigenous or sovereign rights that we have. And they know it's written on the walls. And they know that it is our story. It's not his story. He can't even explain it. It's very much so a mystery. You know, and the thing is that we have to start by acknowledging the day and time that we're in. The day and time that we're in is national time, all right, for us. At one time, Baba mentioned it, or partner Bab Yanun, which is Dr. Malachi Kobina York, L, 33/720. He mentioned it to us. And he mentioned about our indigenous rights. He mentioned our sovereignty. People ran with it. And people started doing everything else. Well, you have different groups of us, and the separations of us is a problem. Many of our leaders said that we have to unite. We have to come together. We have to be as one. We have to stop with the titles of past times and deal with the now. How can you leave Wu-nuwaupu and go back to being a Moor? How can you leave Wu-nuwaupu and go back to being a Hebrew Israelite? How can you leave Wu-nuwaupu and go back to being a Christian? It says once that door is open, it will never be shut. You can never run from the truth. Once you got the true stories of all these different beings, which they call prophets and messiahs and Mahdis and all of these things, and now you know that those were titles under the Caucasus forces of Sixth Ether, and the actual giving of a sacrifice to their god, Shemzu. All of that is things that you cannot ignore. You can't ignore the fact of who's here in this day and time. That's one of the reasons why Panda Bab Yanun allowed us to question for over 50 years. And he said, question everybody. Be fair about it. Why? Because that's a process of elimination. It's a reality that you'll know who he is and why he is here now. And the time period in which you have then as in the past, and then of the future. And you have also now. The then and then don't really matter. People spend too much time chasing thens when they should be paying attention to now, because that's what really matters. And as he said then, he said, you don't want to listen now, so give it time, because then you'll know who I am and who walk with you in this given time, and you'll feel like, man, I wish I coulda and I woulda. But he said each one of those will add up to 1,000 days in hell. And the meaning of that is you create your own hell, because you create your own realities on an everyday basis, on what you give time to. And because in each moment of a body or a single, a group of people or a singular person or two singular people coming in contact with one another, there's energies exchanged. One is giving and one is receiving. And the best way in which he taught us how to look at our now and utilize our now is to realize what is being given to you now and how important it is. So when you look at the science of Wu-nuwaupu, our science, which Garvey said it, Noble Drew Ali said it, many of our leaders said we need our own science, our own way. Baba said it. We need our own value system. What do we value the most out of everything that he has given us? Is his responsibility, his ability to respond to now. No one is able to respond to now like unto him. No one has proven it. Current events, how is it that he is able to give current events and the meaning of these current events now while he's so-called incarcerated? They can't trap a God. They can't trap his mind. His mind is so far past them. He said we catch up every 10 years. He's trying to get us on God's speed to pay attention to now. What is he giving you? And right now, he's fighting, and we're fighting for our freedom. Because when we free him, we free ourselves. We're still in bondage. We're still up on that ignorance. But because we can't see, we still can't see who he is and why he is here. We still doubt. We still don't see the reality. Who is able to give us a language? What leader? What being right now could give us a language? All these people, they got all the slander in the world and different things to say about Pt.2 Yanun and Wu-nuwaupu. Who can give us a new language? The best thing people can say, why the language keep changing? This is their doubt. Because they want an excuse not to drop their dead life, so-called living, and wake up to now. They want to still talk about the past. They want to still do things in the past. What they call backsliding. We have to stop all that. We got to put our foot down. We have to sacrifice. It's going to be painful. Medicine is painful. It's bitter. And the wapu is sweet. When you hear it, it's sweet. It's like, I could use that. That's a bomb. That's a jewel. I could drop this on such and sound heavy and deep. Sound like I'm up here. But the reality is, you could get those questions. Do you know the language? You could get those questions. See, we're up here on the podium, and it's very easy for the crowd to question us. But we're not the man of the hour. We're just the sacrifice for those who want to come and try to attack what we have. We're the sacrifice of the time that others don't spend in studying and to answer questions and to give direction when he is not able to be in front of your face on every given Friday at 7:30 p.m. You follow? So the best thing to do now to start on that path to get our land back is to identify with now. And our indigenous rights are being fought for in the international courts. Our sovereignty is being fought for in the international courts. It starts with us. If we were to take upon the responsibility, because we do have the ability to respond with over 500 books written, non-fiction, all facts, based on science, our science as well, which is a time period now that they cannot follow. They can't come and say, we said that first, because they don't have the answers to the questions that come after. We're in the hereafter. They're gone. That means their mentality, their so-called education, the talking horse. They say, hear from the horse's mouth. We don't need to hear nothing from a horse's mouth. That's their animal kingdom. We deal with the Natharu. And we should be getting the light of the sun. We should be utilizing the forces of nature, the Natharu. And that way you'll get your land back. Because that's just a part of it. But you have to know these sciences on how to do that. And it's not minute scientists. These are great scientists because the science in which he's giving you is your science. It deals with identifying with you. And if he asks you one thing, to pay attention to the tones and sounds and vibrations of your name, that just identifies with you personally, not the whole world. Because we love to ask those questions, those great, grander questions that have a lot of weight to it. And it sounds real stressful. How are we going to do such? And as Michael put it, he said, what? I'm looking at the man in the mirror. We got to change ourselves first. Take upon that responsibility first with you, changing your name, with the science of it. Not just change it with, oh, I trust you, I believe, I have faith. No, there's whole books written on these subjects. We're just briefly going over it because it's your responsibility to dig in. Strap up and dig in. That's the war that you fight within yourself first. You're not going to be able to go on any type of front line to do any type of combating with anyone's education or their mentality until you deal with yourself first. And you have to dig in to say, what am I having a problem with? Why do I doubt something that I never heard before? How can you doubt something you never heard before? That's a Caucasian's mentality. That's his fear that he put in you. Because that's what he fears. He fears what he cannot see. But we know we felt, because we were one with all, as the all. You follow? But we lost that. When you do you, and I'm going to do me. Well, that's what you believe. Well, I believe what I believe. And both two ignorant people go their separate ways with their ignorance. Instead of saying, okay, they hate situations like this. Can you go to your Bible and go to Leviticus chapter 13 and 14? Let me point out to you something. You know the word for that in Hebrew is this? You know the word for that? You get what I'm saying? You can go to Strong's Concordance and you're directing them to their books. And that's for the education of themselves, because they know they have to still know themselves. And there's things about themselves that they did not even know until Pt.2 Yanun revealed it. They know they're connected. A lot of them just fall in line because they're bred that way. That's how you can have your what they call it, citizen's arrest, and they can feel free to do that. But we don't. We like citizen's arrest. Like, that don't exist in our neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? That's not gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna catch a few knuckles, maybe a bullet. You know, I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? That's not something that we deal with. You know? But the thing is that you have to start with yourself. And getting your land back, it starts with learning. You know what I'm saying? That you can get with on Tuesdays evening, the brother Wu-Nuwaupu, who actually is ambassador for our nation, Nuwaupians worldwide, and you could give him on Tuesdays if he's here, and you could get more information on that. He actually has a booklet called Ex Parte, which is addressing United States pertaining to the laws in which they are breaking by, you know what I'm saying, basically holding Pt.2 Yanun against his will and as the freedom that he has as being a president of a nation. So it's different things that you can actually go into and learn more about his case as well. And it starts with us because I say that, I'm trying to make a long story short, but the thing I say that because by us raising the bar on our responsibility, by taking hold of the science and what we have, everybody else verifies and knows who and what we are. Their culture verifies who Pt.2 Yanun is. Their ancient stories identify with who's supposed to be the caretakers, who's going to be the one to save the others. And all the sovereign nations throughout the United States as well as abroad. You follow? There's many different nations when the brother spoke, you know what I'm saying, at a forum, and he spoke on our rights as being indigenous, and they actually gave us a forum, and they basically, once he spoke, there was other nations, other sovereign nations that came up to the brother and basically congratulated him on basically having heart that was never shown to go against the United States, to speak up for sovereignty here, and knowing that certain rights was being basically stepped upon and being ignored. You know, so it's different nations that are waiting for us to resurrect ourselves. So, any other questions? I see a lot of new faces. I know y'all got questions. Oh, y'all got questions. Everything doesn't have to be so, you know what I'm saying, deep and far-fetched. There's a lot of things that, you know what I'm saying, you could deal with, you know what I'm saying, that's face value. Things that you may not understand on an everyday basis. Certain things that may have been in your religion. Certain strange phenomenon, I don't know.
What was the name of the book? The title of the book that we were referencing when we were talking about the sun's energy and the stars?
Oh, it's Pt.2, the Stargate. You see it?
Okay, got it. Is that there?
They may have it. I'm not sure. You could. They have it in the bookstore. You told me that. Yes.
Did our ancestors sacrifice animals?
It depends on how far you go back. Because if you go to the Yoruba of 3,000 years ago, they sacrificed animals. But you know what I'm saying, that comes from the Arabian Yoruba, Arabian, Aruba. You hear it? So basically that was physical beings. It wasn't on a level of what we're dealing with Panatharu. The Panatharu, that goes back to ancient Egypt, over 10,500 years ago. So he's doing his best, not trying, but he's doing his best to get us to identify with the reality of going beyond the religions and the forces that we're feeding by going into all these different aspects of what we think is our culture that's going to bring us to the height of pristine purity that we need to be in when our ancestors return. When all those gates open, those 9 gates are aligned, those beings are coming in. And in each gate, there's beings coming in. So there's beings waiting to come in to eat as well. So he's telling you have to be on certain frequencies to learn the language. So you're not, as far as what they're looking at, of being on a lower level of vibration where you become homogeneous again, an animal, and you're on that altar. Because what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're smoking, and how you're thinking. So, the language itself is going to open up gateways within your mind as well and align your inner sun with this outer sun, which will align also with the black hole. So, you'll be opened up for those light beings to enter you, where it won't be about right knowledge at that point, it'll be about light knowledge, and those whole light beings will be able to enter you. It's in the holy tablets. All right? But the thing is that our ancient ones of Panatharu know that they did not sacrifice animals on those bases. You'll see that they had animals even within their temples, as beings that they respected because it represented certain parts of our nature. And they respected those beings. They held them to high regard. At one time you even heard about Panababi Anun at a Savior's Day. He tells us, stop eating hathaway. We were still eating meat. He's trying to let us know then. Not that I don't know what year that was. 95? Yeah. All right. So that's a long time ago. It's not like, some people, well, why y'all eat this and why y'all eat that? But no one controls your being. He's not someone who's dictating to you to do this, that, and the other, like some zombie robot, no, that's not, and that's what they try to depict him as. Like he was controlling our minds like we were some type of cult, which, they didn't add the other part on, culture. Something that he was giving us to resurrect our minds, and he didn't dictate to us how to think and when to think. That's why it's taking so much time. That's why he said, y'all don't wake up to every 10 years, y'all catch to what was the previous 10 years, what I was teaching then. But we're catching up. We're catching up. We got to pay attention to more so now. But it was you had your the Mayans, the Aztecs, those two particular beings who was hybrids and offspring of what we were grafting out of ourselves as well. That was sacrificing animals as well as human beings. Giving them to their overlords. At this point, I'm gonna actually pass the class on to my brother Sekou. Atom Ray.
Alright, the session change. Verse 17. It says this period of one revolution is 25,920 years. Alright. Now, if I'm understanding correctly, that's talking about the 23-degree axis that the planet is on. And as the wobble comes back to that one point, that beginning point, that is precession.
Right.
Okay.
That's what the precession is. It actually creates, how the zodiac signs, as they call them, go in one specific direction, but in the precession, it actually appears to go in the opposite direction. Like we went from Pisces to Aquarius when, traditionally speaking, if we're dealing with what's your sign, sister, you know what I mean? We going in from Aquarius to Pisces.
Okay, now, with that said, the math and red, on page 103, it says that the equinox of the sun, 25,920 years. So, I just want to know how those two correlate to each other, or if that even speaking about the same thing. If not, how do they relate to each other?
Well, yes, it is speaking about the same thing. Because remember, you have equinox and then you have epoch. You know, one, you say approximately 25,000 years, the number is more exact, 25,920 years, you follow? But then every 50,000 years you have what's called an epoch. So it's just a measurement in time. It's the same, the universe goes through cycles the same way the solar system goes through cycles, the same way Earth goes through cycles in this solar. You follow what I'm saying? So yeah, it all is tied in together. Mm-hmm. Any more questions?
I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
My little friend over here, he was trying to ask.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to know, if she was born from her mother,
Uh-huh.
how can God make her?
Because your mother is God. You weren't ready for that one, huh? The reason why I say that is because when you need some food, who do you ask? Do you ask an invisible being called God, or do you ask mommy? Right. So she's the God of your food. You got one thing down, right? When you need to reach something on that counter and you can't reach it, who gets it for you? So she's the God of reaching things too now. If you going somewhere and you're scared, whose hand do you grab? Mommy. So now she's the God of protection. You follow what I'm saying? Every time you need something, you call on mommy. The same way that other people call on God, but they don't get what you get. You get an actual touching, feeling person. And actually, when you get taller, your God will begin to get smaller. You know what that means? It means you're becoming God. You grow up to be like from whence you came. If you come from God, which you came from God, trust me, if you do something wrong, you will feel the thunder of God. Because many of us have felt that same thunder. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? You feel that thunder like, okay, I'm about to get it. But it's just that simple. The concept of God, or the idea, or the thought of God is just that simple. It's any being, person, place, or thing that's in control of another person, place, or thing. Like how you control your stuff, this is my cookie, ain't nobody else getting a cookie. But if it's your friend, you say, well, being that I'm God over this here cookie, I'm gonna break this cookie in two and you can have half of my cookie. You understand what I'm saying? It's about being in control. See, the main thing that we don't realize as grown-ups, which you know, that we're still trying to get back to knowing, is how to control that God being in us. They made us afraid. See, by the time we got this age that I am now, a lot of us became afraid to be what we really wanted to be. You know how somebody tell you you can be anything you want to be? You really can. It's your imagination. It's not about TV, because they're telling lies to your imagination. It's about closing your eyes and really thinking of what you really want to be. If you really want to be a doctor, if you really want to be an astronaut, or whatever you want to be, you put the picture in your mind. And you see it as clear as you can see it. And you focus on it every day. And you draw pictures of it. You know what I'm talking about, right? You draw I want to be this. I'm going to draw a picture of this. I'm going to be like this. And then she's going to be over here. And I'm going to be taking care of her. And you do that until it becomes real. And after a while, it will become real. That's how you become whatever you want to become. By seeing it first and then becoming it next. You follow? Any more questions? Those are the toughest questions to answer, the ones from children. I almost ran off the stage and got him. It's like, you don't have to answer this one. I was scared, but you know, it is what it is. But I'm scared. See, I'm scared again. Let me get her and I got you next.
I remember a long time ago, Pop said that the hand that you're looking for is at the end of your own arm.
Yeah, he said the helping hand that you're looking for is at the end of your own arm. Correct.
And then he also said that just like you ask your grandparents for help or your parents for help or whatever, he said that you need to call on to your ancient ancestors for help too. So what would they actually do to help you if
Let me ask you a
you're able
question.
to do it yourself? You know what I'm saying?
Cause I follow where you're coming from.
Oh, okay.
Let me do my best, and then if I don't get it, then you pin me down and make me get it. Your grandmother, right, gave birth to, let's start with your great grandmother. Since you want to go ancestor, let's go a little bit further back. Your great grandmother gave birth to your grandmother, right? And your grandmother gave birth to your mother, right? And your mother gave birth to you, right? So what's the difference? You are them. They are you. See, we have this thing that we do with religion where we separate ourselves from this God concept, for lack of a better way to say it. You understand? We take a leap of faith. That's what they want you to do. But when you go into their books, they always point you in the direction of, well, Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat, and then they begat, and then they begat, and it's a genealogy thing, and that's how we have to start to look at it. It's real. You can literally touch your grandmother's face. Literally. So when you're asking for something, you're calling on all those beings that exist in you, not outside of you. When you call on your ancestors, that's like making a phone call home. You know what I'm saying? You ever be talking to your mother and realize y'all are the same? Like, man, I never realized how much I was like you. I always thought you was the mean woman that beat me when I did something wrong. But now I realize I'm more like you because I got a little one and I kind of beat her sometimes. You know what I mean? You got that same anger. Some of the same things anger you that anger your mother. You follow? So you're really not calling out so much. You're really tuning in. Tuning in to those beings that came before you. You follow? Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. This young man had a question first, which I'm scared. I'm about to duck behind this podium in a minute. Mm-hmm. You got the Golden Child book up there?
73.
Yeah. Let me see. It actually says in verse 3, it says, the Golden Children started their final incarnation into chosen persons in 1973 on up until 2003. So does that help you or? Okay, does that answer your question? Okay, great. That was easy. What? Oh, my man here right first, and I got you.
Okay, when you said calling on your ancestors, what about if you have ancestors that, of course, you probably don't know, but what about those on that low frequency before they pass, and if they come to try to help you, is there something you can do to protect yourself from them?
That's a great question, because you have what's called familiar spirits. Give me a second. I'm gonna answer your question, but I want to make sure we get this part first, because a lot of people are dealing with this. You have beings that can imitate your grandmother or imitate your great grandmother that passed on, and it's called familiar spirits. And some people even have had this instance with dealing with religion. They say, well, I saw Jesus last night. He came to me. He had a white robe on. Mary cried and blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Because that's they're using your subconscious against you. They can literally hover over you from 3 seconds to 3 minutes and know everything about how you think. And then they plant a thought in and they leave. Just like that. Now we're getting to the point where they actually are staying in people. And you see it, man, that nigga ain't the same as he was last year. Like he did forget 180. He done did the 390. He turns around and back around again. Because that's what's happening. You having familiar spirits come to people and they say, well, this was my grandmother. What did she tell you to do? She told me to kill the cat. Like, you know what I'm saying? And these weird thoughts. And that's what you have to do. You have to really start to get in tune with yourself and who they were. Because many of us, being of mixed genealogy, we got ancestors that don't even like us. Because they don't like Negroes, as they call them. Negras. I don't like them, they're Negras. But I got one, and she's a sweet one. And that was somebody's great-grandmother. You follow what I'm saying? Some of our great-grandmothers was the sweet one, as they called her. And the bed warmer. You know how they did it. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody strange here to that. And so when we got to that point, you know what I'm saying, where we were born, you know what I'm saying, those same genes, those same beings that hated us start to come through and dictate some of our actions if you allow them. In fact, it gets into that in Genetic Kiss. And it talks about how, let's say, you're a complete vegetarian. I don't know if you're vegetarian, but how many people get vegetarians out there? Yeah, we got a couple. Let's say you're walking and, man, you know what I'm saying? I'm feeling good. They get me. What is it? What vegetarians eat? Smoothie and salad. I'm gonna get me a salad. And you walk in and you walk past Burger King. Nah, man, I'm gonna give me this. Man, I want a burger. You know what I'm saying? You start to break down you for yourself, like, okay, I want a burger. That can't be you, because you've been a vegetarian for, let's say, 20 years. And you're like, man, I want a burger. What is it? It's one of those beings that may be number 30. Because you know you have 30 going back. If your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-parents, all the way going back to 30 people. Now one of them may want that burger. And if you don't give in, then it's fine. You move on. But if you give in to that burger, you know what I'm saying, that becomes a thought that creates a groove in your mind. And that ancestor travels down and becomes number 29. Then every time you eat the burger, it becomes 27, 26. Then they eventually get to 2, and then they jump into you. And then they're in the driver's seat. Now, what happened to that nigga? He was vegetarian now. He eating everything under the sun, from the rooter to the tutor. You know what I'm saying? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but what do you do to protect yourself from it?
Well, you have to be in the driver's seat. You have to know what your intention is, number one, and you have to control that intention. And then number 2, you have to know when it's your thought and when it's one of them others trying to control your thoughts. You got to know yourself. Now they say knowledge itself. That's one of the most overlooked things in knowledge itself is people don't really take time to get to know themselves. Because we so busy pointing the finger, such and such eating a burger, such and such said he was a vegetarian, such and such, and Patarak tells us you can't point at somebody else when you got a hole in your own bag of life. Meaning sometimes it just helps you to sit down by yourself and just think. And you'll get to know that voice that's for you and get to know that voice is against you. You sit quietly in a room and really ask yourself these questions and start to question yourself, and you'll start realizing, because I'm getting the feeling that this has come up before for you. And it bothers you just a little bit. You understand what I'm saying? Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
So my question,
Well, you go ahead.
my question I was just thinking that maybe you was comparing it to like an intergalactic being just taking away life.
As far as intergalactic, what do you mean?
And like an infiltrator, like at that very moment, like say for instance, when you get to the point, say for instance, you and your mate have a disagreement, and instead of you just saying, all right, I'm gonna just take a minute and chill, which is normally your nature, they get you to that point where you're so angry, and you just say whatever.
So wait a second, they get you to the point, or you let yourself go, and you lost control of your emotions, and you made yourself angry. Because think about that. Can somebody really make you angry, or is it you losing control of yourself and making yourself? Because you know what happens. Did he just call me a... Did this? No, you didn't. And you start building this up, and you really cheating yourself up to become a demon. You really are. You're really letting these beings in because you're opening yourself up to this. Instead of saying, I know you wasn't talking to me, and walking in the other room and just going back to what you was doing. Because you know, there's 2 different types of beings. You know what I'm saying? There's the type of being that, you know what, I know you didn't just say that. And they sit down and they go back to do whatever they was doing. And then there's, I know you didn't just tell me that. And they feed into it. And we have a book on it that Partner Bob Yanur wrote called Feeding the Forces.
Oh, yeah.
If you have that type of question, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, because I could stay up here all day, but, you know, this right here is perfect. Feeding the Forces, because it's getting into how we let go of the control that we have, the natural control that we have over our energy in motion. And we let go of that, and next thing you know, our energy is in motion, and we're not in the driver's seat. And another being or another group of beings, Legion, if you ever, who saw that movie Legion? When a woman jumped on the ceiling and she was about to bite the man, and all of a sudden all these different things start to happen, and before you know it, the woman stabbed the man 20 times, don't remember what happened, or she woke up out of her sleep and strangled him to death, don't remember what happened, because she had what's called a walk-in. And now they're actually becoming live-ins.
Yeah.
You follow? That answer your question?
So yeah, it's the same thing.
No. Yes and no. Because you're saying intergalactic, and I'm not.
I guess she's probably going off of a communication a while ago where Pops had spoke about intergalactic infiltrators that come in, you know what I'm saying, and take over when you drop. It's kind of saying, that's a different name.
Okay.
Drop yourself to a level. They'll walk in, they'll possess you, cause confusion, and bounce on out, and you don't even know, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, they come from another dimension, like from another.
Right, yeah, it's the same thing then. Yeah, I was just trying to make sure I understood what you were saying. So, for instance, disembodied spirits, like you're talking about, right? Okay.
Yeah, just come in, they're from another spot, come in, do what they do, and then step out, but you saying they staying now, so you know.
Right, because you have some that now are living in people instead of just coming in for that 3 seconds or 3 minutes, planting the idea and leaving. Now they staying, and they starting to rule over the whole being. And you have people that change their entire nature.
I have forgotten.
So is that what the psychic self-defense is? To know when they're coming in and controlling it to stop it from happening?
Well, yeah. The master teacher said, pick a color and pick a shape. That's that color. And look at it. Every time something gets you upset, look at it. You know what I'm saying? You may look at it for a minute, and it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and the next thing you know, you do it 10 minutes, and build up till you can do it for an hour. Now, after a while, when something upsets you, that color and that shape will pop in your mind, and it will become a psychic self-defense because it'll bring you back to that same calm state that you were in every time you looked at it, to calm yourself down. Because something as simple as a dog barking can just be enough to get your emotions riled up. Because you walking, you in the calm time, and you chilling, and you hear, it startles you, and you have to bring yourself back down to that calm state again to get back in your groove. You know what I'm saying? Or else it might throw up your whole day. You follow? With that, I'm going to pass the class on to my good brother Atum Hutep Emre Atum Ray. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question from the sister again. Where did God come from?
Came from his mother.
Came from his mother.
Yeah. Same way you came from your mother and father. Because when you go in the Bible, it said that God created man in his image and after his likeness, right?
Right.
So we know what a man is. And I'm pretty sure women know what a man is. So man, they created Adam, is in God's image, which means form. That means that he had the same reproduction organs as the being that he created. And if he has that, that means that he was given birth to by who? A woman, because the male reproduction organ is nothing but a elongated female clitoris. You feel me? And a man, he doesn't have any mammary glands, so it came from a female. He had nipples, but he don't use them. So this is what happens when we get caught up in. This is like the children. That's what I'm telling you. When children ask these questions, because they ask these questions because they're being indoctrinated by what? A foreign culture. That has nothing. That's why they ask the question. Because think about this: for a child to ask that question, remember we had the class before, and the children start asking these questions. The reason why they ask the question because it doesn't make sense to them. You feed me, but you tell me to give praise to this somebody I don't know. It's confusing. And then what happened is the children don't want to accept it. But then you start saying, well, if you don't believe, you go to hell. You will be burned. And they remember that time they put their hand on the stove and burnt their hand. They said, okay, I know what that felt, and I don't want to get burnt all over my body. So it's like fear tactics. The whole religious concepts are nothing but fear tactics to put you, into fear. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things they're doing right now with these new horror movies that's coming out is that they're creating a lot of either horror movies to get into your subconscious mind. So when you actually start seeing different beings who know that, okay, this scared them. So now if I incarnate or shapeshift into this form while they're going to sleep, then I will scare them. You feel me? This is the same thing, this is what these galactical infiltrators do. These are beings that vibrate on higher, different frequencies or densities that's vibrating in another dimension. And they want to come here on this dimension. But they can't come here because the frequency of planet Earth is on a different vibration. So what they do is their influences, who do they influence? Can anybody tell me who they influence that can change the vibration for them? Musicians. Because musician deals with tones. But what happens is every musician they can't get in tune with unless that musician open the gateway for them. And how does the musician open the gateway for them? No. Be intoxicated or on drugs. That's why a lot of your jazz musicians were all drug addicts. Marvin Gaye, Ray Charles. These guys were tapping it into another realm. And what happened is these beings were giving them or influenced them with tones. This is why when these guys were high, they would come up with this, oh, this guy's a genius, the way he comes with this new sound, you hear me? But no one ever heard a sound before. Look at Jimi Hendrix, drug addict. Janis Joplin, drug addict. The Beatles, drug addicts. These guys were tapping into other beings, and these beings were giving them what they want. So what the music they were giving them was like, we open a portal, we need you to make this music, so once you do this, you can change the vibration of the planet Earth, then we can come through. And once they come through, the first thing they do is say, I need a body. They look around, I said, I want his body. So what can I do to him to get inside his body? They follow you around to the day you slip up, go to a party, get drunk, real bad, you black out. Now when your grandparents took over, is actually holding the seat down for you, you hear me? You wake up the next morning and be like, damn, what happened last night? Oh, you don't know what you did? You know, somebody took over and dropped a seat. But this being was trying to knock you down. Because that's why you always see them always, staggering. You know what I'm saying? Drunken style, you feel me? And once you hit the ground and cut yourself, this is how these beings get in, through the blood. But it needs you to spill blood so they can get in. Now you got stuff in the industry. Let's go back to what I was saying earlier. How can these rappers sell their soul like that? And be like, and not have no care in the world, because some of these rappers and some of these entertainers are not the same people that you knew before. They had performed rituals called seance, where they allowed another being that came from another dimension to share their body with them. This is why you see people like Nicki Minaj, who is one way, and then she's totally different now. Talk about she has another being that's in her named Roman, because she performed that ritual.
That's what Beyonce.
No, Beyonce is Sasha Fierce. I'm talking about Nicki Minaj. Has a being named. Do y'all keep up with this stuff?
No.
You listen. You got to watch the news. You got to watch the stuff that's going on. How can you save your children and you're not knowing what they're listening to?
Right.
How are you going to sit there and relate to your children when you they listen to Chief Keef and you're like, who the heck is Chief Keef? You know what I'm saying? You looking at it, oh, you're lame, mom. You don't know who Chief Keef is. So you got to stay up on this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Nicki Minaj has been saying for years that she is possessed has an alter ego by a being that's in her body named Roman. And this is why she acts the way she acts. Beyonce said years ago that she has an alter ego named Sasha. Now here's the trick. Beyonce said that when she goes to the stage, Sasha takes over, right? She says she feels like this being takes over and she's able to perform. Now to the average person, you'd be like, oh, that's deep. You'd be like, you don't even think about it, but look at this. How long has Beyonce been performing? Does anybody know?
10 years?
No. Beyonce been since she was 5 or 6 years old. A lot of you guys don't know. They would know it as prime time or girl time on Star Search. That was in the early 90s, almost late 80s. You hear me? So she was performing all her life. So what being are you talking about? Because you don't have no life. All you know is practice, sing, practice, sing. You had no other life. Her parents divulged her into the music industry since she was a child. Same way that a lot of parents live their life to their children or use a model. You have no time for that. You got to practice. You got to etiquette. You got to walk. You this. You have no other life. So you say, I'm another person. What person are you talking about? Because it's not talking about you, because you're a lifetime entertainer. So that means that you have another being in your body. And this is what the master teacher was talking about. These walk-ins. These possessions, it's crazy, because first of all, you got to deal with your 30 personalities. Then you got to deal with galactical infiltrators. Then you got to deal with disembodied souls. You hear me? Then you got to deal with your husband's 30 personalities. So the best way to deal with this is how you know you. And I'm telling you how it happens, because I used to be one of those recipients when I was younger. You go see a chick, like, oh, I like the way she look. Now, you never liked this girl before, but all of a sudden, you want to hit it. This is your mentality. I want to take her out, spend some money. Like, I would never give a dime, but all of a sudden, when your boys ain't around, you're trying to holler at her. This is not you, because you're going against everything you say. Come on, folks, how many times you said, I'm never going to do this ever, but you did it anyway? Huh? That means that something else took over. You think it's you, but like a master teacher said years ago, he said that when a being possesses your body, it shares the same brain patterns in you because everything that you remember is stored in your memory. So when they have access to it. So when you saying, I want to eat some apples, and you say, nah, I want to drink. You see, you think you're making a decision. That's not you. That's the being. It's that quick and it's that subtle. You think it's you making that decision. But you gotta learn how to wean down, like, what do you want? Sometimes you'll give in, like, damn, I gave in, and then later on you regret it. You know what I'm talking about. There's been times you did stuff and later on you regretted it because you didn't want to do it in the first place, but you did it anyway.